In the Gospel of John, the cross isn't just one single thing. It's so profound, so massive, that you have to look at it from a bunch of different angles to really start to get it. So today, that's exactly what we're going to do. Look at one pivotal event, but through 7 totally distinct and powerful pictures.
I mean, that's a huge question, right? When something happens that carries almost infinite weight, how do you even begin to talk about it? A single definition just isn't going to cut it. And that's the challenge the Gospel of John takes on. And its solution is, well, it's pretty fascinating.
So instead of giving us a dry dictionary entry, John gives us a portrait gallery. Seriously, imagine you're walking through a museum. In every room, there's a painting of the same person, but each one shows you something completely new. A different mood, a hidden detail, a whole other side to their story. That's how we're going to approach the cross today.
Okay, so our first stop in this gallery is a wing all about sacrifice. Now, this is a huge foundational theme, and John gives us our first 2 portraits right here, and they build on centuries of history. Right out of the gate, this is how John the Baptist introduces Jesus. And listen to that title, the Lamb of God. This isn't just a lamb for one person's sin. This is the Lamb. And the scope? It's not local, it's cosmic, the sin of the world. This just sets the stage for a sacrifice that's on a whole other level.
So what does that title really mean? Well, think of it as a grand summary. It's not just about the Passover lamb or any one specific ritual. It's pointing to the entire Old Testament system of sacrifice. It's as if all of that history finds its ultimate meaning and its final completion in this one person.
But wait, there's another layer to this. If Jesus is the lamb, then who's the priest making the offering? And this is where John's gospel gives us this incredible twist. Jesus is both. He's also the high priest, but he does something no other priest could do. He consecrates himself. He is the perfect offering, and he's the perfect one doing the offering.
You know, this idea of a willing sacrifice leads us right into our next set of pictures, which are all about the why. Why did this happen? And here we get this stark contrast, a tale of 2 very different motives, one of pure love and the other of cold, hard politics.
First up, we hear from Jesus himself. He calls himself the Good Shepherd. And the key phrase here is that he lays down his life. This isn't something that just happens to him. It's intentional, it's personal, and it's all driven by love for his flock. He chooses this path. And then you get this. The high priest Caiaphas comes to the exact same conclusion. One man has to die, but for a totally different reason. For Caiaphas, this has nothing to do with love. It's about political expediency. It's a cold, cynical calculation to keep the Romans off their backs and just maintain the status quo. And this is where you see that deep irony John is so famous for. Caiaphas, who's just trying to solve a political problem, accidentally becomes a prophet. He thinks he's just saving the nation from Roman occupation, but what he's actually doing, in John's telling, is prophesying a substitutionary death that goes way beyond Israel to gather all of God's scattered children. It's a massive hint that this event is for everyone. All right, now we're entering what might be the most mind-bending wing of our gallery. The pictures in here are going to flip our expectations completely upside down. They show us how an act of brutal, shameful execution is actually portrayed as a moment of ultimate triumph. To help us get this, Jesus points way back to an old story in the book of Numbers. The people of Israel rebel, they get judged with bites from venomous snakes, and the cure? Well, the cure is to look at a bronze serpent that's been lifted up on a pole. And Jesus says, just like that, the Son of Man must be lifted up. The very symbol of the curse becomes a source of healing. It's a really powerful parallel. So that phrase, lifted up, is absolutely key. It's got this brilliant double meaning in John's gospel. On one hand, it literally means being physically lifted up on a cross, a horrific public execution. But at the exact same time, it means being spiritually lifted up in glory, exalted, victorious, and starting his journey back to the Father. John holds both of those meanings together at once.
And that leads us to another picture sometimes called Christus Victor, which basically means Christ the champion. In this view, the cross is no defeat, not at all. It's the decisive battle. Jesus actually says now the ruler of this world will be cast out. So right at the moment of his greatest apparent weakness, he wins this cosmic victory over all the forces of evil.
Our final picture in the gallery comes from the world of farming, a simple metaphor of life coming from death. Think about it. A seed doesn't do anything if it just stays safe and dry. It's only by being buried in the ground, by dying, that it can actually produce a huge harvest. Jesus says this is true for him first. His death will bear much fruit. And then he says it's true for his followers too.
So Let's just step back for a second and take in the whole gallery we've just walked through. Each one of these portraits has given us a totally different lens, and when you put them all together, you get a much richer, fuller, and more profound understanding.
Okay, so we've seen the whole collection. We saw the cross as the ultimate sacrifice, the Lamb of God. We saw it as a self-consecrated offering made by a unique high priest. We saw the motivation, the loving substitution of a good shepherd, which was ironically echoed by the political substitution of an unwitting prophet. And then came the paradoxes, a shameful execution that was also a glorious exaltation, an apparent defeat that was really a cosmic victory, and a death that, like a buried seed, brings forth abundant new life. Each picture just adds another crucial layer.
And that really brings us to our final question. Why go to all this trouble? Why not just have one simple explanation? Well, maybe it's because some truths are just too big, too deep, to ever fit into a single sentence. Maybe the whole point of the gallery is that you need all 7 pictures, and maybe even more, to even begin to grasp what's really going on.